Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. Hello, my name is Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans, femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain, and a person in recovery.
My name is Anthony. I'm a 7th-year doctoral student in clinical psych, an addict and alcoholic. I'm really feeling these new Red Bull, what is this, Fig Apple. And as always, I care about you.
Yes, and I'm Lulu, and my pronouns are he and him. I am in recovery from crystal meth and alcohol. I'm a former Miss Castro Country Club, and I am always in search of balance.
And each week we provide and create a brave space where we can talk about topics of recovery.
Yes, and our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for those people in recovery.
By tackling topics sometimes used to separate us.
But before we do that, like, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell. Ding, 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 ding.
And take a moment and rate us. Rate us 5 stars before we even start.
5 stars, yes. Hey, Zachary. So good to see you on here.
Absolutely.
We love
I
that.
was just watching her on the little promo for the documentary.
Did the promos out?
Yeah, the promo's out for the documentary.
It's so good.
You can go to the castrocountryclub.org or you can go to Castro Country Club Facebook page or .org. There's a documentary that's being produced. It's called Meet Me at the CCC.
Yes, and I'll put it on our Instagram as well.
Yeah, perfect. Go check it out.
Yes, and what Bonnie Violet was saying earlier. Yeah,
I like that. Yes, and that's gonna be.
Yes, and.
Do you know I hate? You know who does? Zachary actually does yes and. A lot of my therapist friends will do yes and. Bonnie Violet does yes and.
Yes,
and I wanted to go back to what Bonnie Violet was saying. Yeah, definitely rate us on wherever you see us. Give us 5 stars. As usual, like as I was saying last time, we're not monetized, so we're not getting money for your subscriptions or comments or anything like that. But it does get the word out, and it helps us reach other queer folks in recovery.
Yes, and we want to reach all queer folks.
All of them. It's such a niche community. We love all of you and
every last one of them.
Every single last one of you. Every single last one of you.
Absolutely.
So how's everyone doing?
I'm fabulous.
Yeah, cute.
Really?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
I was at home watching Wednesday on Netflix.
Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's good.
Is
Netflix,
it
good? I think that some of these shows, it's good. Yeah, I've heard all sorts of criticism or whatever, but anytime you take something that is as well known and kind of add your own flavor to it, we're going to be critical. But I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. I feel like I didn't waste my time.
That was very deep.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good too. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. I did watch the new We're Here though. Did you watch that?
I haven't seen that.
What's that?
Oh my God. Yes. It's basically, it's HBO Max. It's Bob the Drag Queen, Eureka, and Shangela. And they go to little small town America and they do these drag shows. And they were just in this little Granbury, Texas.
Just
it's like Tu Wong Fu.
Just think Queer Eye for drag queens.
But it was also Tu Wong Fu. Isn't that what they did? They went to this obscure ass town.
They ended up, but that wasn't the whole premise of the movie.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. I guess in some ways, right? Like the little town, turning the little town into fabulousness or whatever.
Yes, yeah. Yes, we can save your little town.
Yeah.
And your marriage.
But it was so crazy how many people were attacking them because of their drag queens. You know what I mean? There's such a hatred toward drag right now that it's insane.
Right now, or I feel like drag has always been kind of
it feels like it's more.
Yeah.
Well, as a drag artist, do you feel it too, Minnie?
Well, okay, so I think it has a lot to do with the fact that now drag is a lot more mainstream. I think that's why drag artists and drag performers and queer and all that, they were always going to be targeted.
Right.
And I think that now it's, these folks that are conspiracy theorists and they come with, oh no, the drag queen reading hour, they're going to turn the kids into drag queens. Is that a problem?
Well, they're trying. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to make drag illegal in some states. There's
right. I remember. Yeah. You know what's crazy? Zachary yesterday. So we had an impromptu movie night. We were watching Nightmare Before Christmas, and Zachary was
Wait, where'd you do that at?
right here, right
Oh, okay.
before our 7:30.
Oh, okay,
And
good. I was like,
by the way, Brandon, we had a little.
Minnie's like, I didn't get the invite.
I
Well,
know,
it was
right?
because what ended up happening. So we went to the lighting of the tree yesterday.
Okay.
A bunch of people were there. It was a lot of fun. And we were originally going to get dinner. Y'all don't need to know the whole story, but we were originally going to
Actually,
get
we
dinner.
do, because I want to know what I wasn't invited
Okay,
to.
listen. Originally going to get dinner. We were originally going to get dinner. It was a group of us, some folks that are new in town, that are new to the fellowship. It was a lot of fun. And we were going to go to dinner, but we didn't have, there wasn't enough time. And I'm like, hey, let's go to the Castro Country Club. Let's get some hot chocolate and let's just chill. So we came, we got hot chocolate.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it was a group of us. And I was like, listen, we have the room is empty right now. Our meeting starts in about 45 minutes. Why don't I just cast a movie from my phone onto here? And anyway, I had The Nightmare Before Christmas. And so we started watching that and drinking our hot chocolate. It was very sweet. Oh, so anyway, so I'm sharing that story because someone asked Zachary, why is it that we can't have shows at Most Holy Redeemer anymore?
And he said, yes, and. Huh?
Yeah. And he said, yes, and. So Zachary was saying, basically, Zachary pulled up an article that was written by, I think, the Catholic Review.
Exactly.
Where Zachary's character, so Maybelline,
his drag persona
was
labeling.
Oh, labeling.
Yeah, labeling
was called out, and she was referred to. Labeling was referred to as a transvestite,
yeah,
which is
notorious. Didn't they use the word notorious?
a notorious transvestite.
Yeah, exactly.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No,
well, I
but
think it's
pretty
just
harsh.
factually inaccurate.
Right.
No.
Drag. Yeah.
Yeah, to other people, we're all the same.
Yeah, it's just
No,
factually inaccurate. So I thought I was like, oh wow, I was like, you got called out by the Catholics.
You know what? That's a.
And you know what's crazy about that though is that that's just one sect. You know what I mean? And otherwise, Most Holy Redeemer is such a welcoming and accepting place. Sorry, did I put my hand in your face? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, it's otherwise a welcoming and accepting place. They have a huge gay, not contingent, but congregation.
I think it was the change with the archdiocese at the time.
Yes,
the individual that wasn't. I don't know if that person is still in, but it was very kind of conservative and obnoxious and
yeah. So with that being said, should we give some context to today's
we kind of
non-topic?
We kind of already started.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Well, I want to just explain to people. So today's episode is called "Let's Have a KiKi," and here's why. So what y'all don't know is that once the camera is turned off, we continue to chat off camera. And typically we have these really rich and fun conversations, and we end up talking about things that we wish we would have kept on air because we're like, oh, I wonder what other people think about this. And so we thought, okay, why don't we not show up with a topic today and let's just chat and see what happens. So I hope this feels, and we hope this feels like a conversation to you. So just chime in as usual. We don't have a planned script or anything like that. And so
no agenda.
No agenda, not even a gay agenda.
No gay agenda. No Lewis agenda.
No gay agenda. I love you said
Bonnie Violet agenda.
No agenda.
Absolutely. And in not having an agenda, we have an agenda.
And our agenda
Right.
is to be I guess our agenda is just to be as open and as honest as possible. So let's have a KiKi, shall we?
I think a great place for us to kind of start. Maybe to the tail end of our conversation last week.
What was it?
Really kind of when we were talking about grace, and then Bonnie, you were talking about because I went back and listened to it, and you were talking about having to kind of start over. Everybody. We've some of us. I mean, I think that it's fair to say that there are some who are further along in their understanding of multicultural democracy, things of that nature, and I think that Bonnie, you were expressing frustration that there are some people who are still behind the lines and not making any effort, or it seems as though they're not making any effort to catch up. And it seems every time we have to learn the new thing, same thing over and over again. And what I was hearing in that, like I had made the comment about I think that you don't just stay. When you figure out once I got to understand that, like we were talking about colorism before, once I understood that was an issue and it's something that I get to talk about or whatever,
Right.
I'm aware of it now and I'm not stuck where I was. And I think the challenge is not being frustrated that other people are not where you want them to be.
Yeah. Well, now I'm remembering what I was talking about. But yeah, like this idea, like I just want us to get to have a new experience. I just feel like the experience that I've gotten to have because I'm sober and all these sorts of things, but because I go to the same places that everyone else goes to for wisdom and growth and all that shit, then like we're all kind of getting to the same place. And to me, it's like I want something like brand new, something fresh, something that, and maybe that's my own issue, but like there's a part of me that just wants something more and different because I don't want us to end up with the same results, 20, 30 years down the road because we haven't figured out a way as a people to do things differently and hopefully better.
I remember this was our mountain conversation, that there's so many different ways up the same mountain.
Absolutely.
And that's when Lewis made some side-ass comment.
Well, no.
What mountain?
I also went back and I went back and I was listening to my comment because what I said was we were talking about how you can hear I can hear the same language with folks. And I mentioned it because like you can tell when somebody's working on themselves it doesn't have to necessarily be through 12-step or anything.
When they've been indoctrinated.
And I use the term self-help because that's what it is. It's like all of the language is the same. Sometimes we use different words for it, but it's the same mountain.
This years ago, I wonder if I've talked about this before, but years ago, this is this I think was in the 90s. This is during the advent of the idea of a hate crime. And I heard this.
Were you in grade school in the 90s?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I was born in 84, so I was probably middle school or something like that.
What was the 90s? I think I saw movies about it.
The 90s? Girl, how old are you? You're not much older.
I'm older than I think both of you. So.
Oh, okay. I was gonna, can I just say, I was looking at you, I was like, man, she hella looks like Princess Di right now.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
You're hella giving us Princess Di.
I got my KiKi lighting.
Yeah. Okay, what was I talking about? Hate crimes. So I heard this conservative senator, and she was saying, well, like her opposition to hate crimes were, well, when we add this kind of clause or this like extra punishment, what we're doing is we're saying not only is your action kind of criminal, but so too is your way of thinking. And I thought that was really interesting to kind of do this idea that we can criminalize how people think. Now, I realize that is not a complete thought because obviously there are very real consequences to certain ideas. And so I thought that was interesting. Like, is it kind of hypocritical or is it antithetical to free speech to criminalize how, say, someone might think?
Well, I think to that though, like the reason why the hate crime is like there are people who've gotten away with shit because they said, like the gay panic or the trans panic or like I ate Twinkies so I killed Harvey Milk, like you know what I mean. So like there has been some like harmful, I guess, claims, if you will, with certain people who have killed or harmed a certain group of people. And because they see that group of people as less than or different or whatever, then it's not as big of a deal. That's why we don't, find all the missing people, or you only hear about the missing people in certain groups of people, or, like that sort of stuff. So I think the idea of having a hate crime is also to be able to just bring light or maybe ensure that something is happening in a measured way for what is actually happening. But I don't know.
There's a term, and I'm pretty sure that you know it. I've only heard it recently, and it has everything to do with folks like the folks at Fox News or anyone who is kind of spewing vitriolic rhetoric that causes someone to act. And I think that to what you were saying with regards to, I don't think it's about the thinking. I think it's about if the thinking becomes that, like once you open your mouth, and especially if you have the floor, if you have an outlet, or you have a way, like putting it down. I think that free speech should be protected, but if you are one of those people like if you a bully pulpit, I guess if you have an opportunity to reach many people, you still have to be absolutely responsible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I get that. And it's the reason why, for example, we're not allowed to say yell fire in a movie theater, right? Because that's not free speech. There's a very real consequence to yelling fire. People could get hurt, etc.
Yeah.
Right. So I get that. To be sure, for people at home, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have hate crimes. I was just saying for thought. And the reason why I brought that up was because what you were saying, Bonnie Violet, made me think about, you know, we talk about grace, or we talk about like a different way of living and being with each other. And it makes me wonder, like, how much of that for me has to do with, like, I just need to accept that people are going to be the way they're going to be, rather than when changing them. And I realize that's fraught, right? Like, there are some things I'd want to change, and there are some things that I need to accept. And for me, especially when it comes to other people, just given how much time I have on earth, I often think to myself, well, it's just going to take too much energy for me to like try to change your worldview.
Don't you think, okay, maybe this is to you, Bonnie, and both of you. Don't you think there's a time when I need to surround myself with people who are already where I want to be, or who are thinking like that, so that I'm not, and the times when I'm super frustrated, where I feel that I can't be of service to someone who is not there yet, I maybe need, the best way I can be of service is to steer clear, to give myself enough time, almost like going and recharging my battery. But I have the responsibility, if I'm thinking about the future, to go back. It's kind of like with meetings. I'm in one fellowship where it's still pretty new, and unfortunately there's a lot of relapse, and I'm naturally inclined, or most of us, we get some sobriety, and then we want to go to the parent program, because we see that recovery is there, but recovery is in all those places.
Right.
It's just that maybe at the other fellowship, I'm what recovery looks like for someone else who is struggling. So back to my point, it's like, I think that we just get to be patient, but we've got to take care of ourselves and understand that, like, as much as I want to be everyone's savior, I can't be everyone's savior all the time. I have to do that self-care thing.
Yeah, I just feel, and I think maybe one of the challenges is, I don't know, it just feels like it's easier to be attacked. Like, I don't know if there's just more in places for people to access you in ways that are
Oh yes, social media.
Do you know what I mean? Between social media, or even nowadays, though, it's even just walking down the street.
But you're doing something amazing with your with your grace, with everything that you're doing. I called it Splinter Grace.
That's what it's called, Splintered Grace.
Yeah. No, but you're doing everything, and I think it's almost like with celebrity, that it's not that once you're there, everybody has a right to treat you anyway, but once you're there, everybody has a right to engage with you. I think that if we weren't where we are, and this is where I would argue that as much as you might think that we're stagnant or whatever, we're doing what we need to do to keep going. And eventually the ones that we can pull up are going to come up. They're going to come up. But because we're here, and because we have this platform, or because somebody has this platform, they're going to be attacked. They're going to be attacked by those people who are uncomfortable with the change that they see as absolutely necessary.
Yeah, right. And even our laws are designed that way, right? Like the laws for like libel, slander, and defamation are different for celebrities than they are for the common folk, right? Because there's just an assumption, not an assumption, but there's a certain responsibility when you have a platform that you have to other people. Bonnie Violet, were you going to say something about that? Because I wanted to reverse a little bit to something else that you said.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was also thinking about, I've been thinking about this a lot too with respect to like the South, and well, specifically living in San Francisco. So yesterday at the tree lighting, our mayor was there, our state senator was there, so London Breed and Wiener was there, and there was there's
a lot of Wieners.
Yeah. But I remember I was standing out there and it felt very nice.
Yeah.
I felt there was a drag queen introducing them and she was hilarious. And I thought, wow, this feels so great. Like I was outside standing in front of this beautiful tree. I have this like mayor of color who's a strong ally of the LGBT plus community. You have Scott Wiener, that's his name, right? Scott Wiener, who's part of the community, and I was surrounded by people of color, and literally every race imaginable. I was surrounded by them, straight people, queer people, and I thought, wow, this is such a nice feeling, you know. And the news was there, and the camera was there, and it felt wonderful, right? And then I was thinking about how I have this sense of community, and then I was also thinking about how, you know, if I were in Kentucky or if I were in, say, Mississippi, the likelihood that I would be watching a mayor of color, nonetheless, standing next to a gay man, standing next to a drag queen, that it would be very unlikely.
Yeah.
And so it made me think to myself, well, is my desire or my wish to see this kind of globally, is that ethnocentric? Like, am I being so self-centered and selfish that I would say this experience or this life that I live, I want everyone else to live, right? Because I look at it and I go, and I think to myself, well, there's broad acceptance here, there's diversity here, right? And so sometimes it makes me wonder, like, well, do people in the South, well, not do people in the South have a right to be bigoted? Because not all people in the South are bigoted, but when we talk about like racism, often we refer back to the South because that's where we hear a lot about certain things that go down. What do y'all think?
Bonnie, did you have that?
I mean, I get where you're going with that too, but I think there's and I think this is and I didn't say yes, I just said I get it and so kind of. But anyway, I like it feels different when your ideal is exclusionary, I guess, or when you're the one excluded from that scene. And I think that might be the difference. It's like, and also like, what is gained? What is gained from it? I guess. But you know, I struggle with that too. In particular, with my podcast with my aunt with Splintered Grace, it's like I know she's committed to me, like, and she loves me and she cares about me and like she sees me like more than like this is growth. The other day I was so when I did the drag, this is a little digress, but when I did the Dragon Spirituality Summit, my favorite thing was I got to read a story to some kids and I was just like it was like it was the highlight of my weekend. And I like put it up on my YouTube and I'm just feeling like really proud of it. And then of course, this person in the comment wrote, "He is hideous," in the comments. And my aunt's response was, "But you're not a he." And I was like, "Yes," you know, and so like my aunt sees me as I see me, you know what I mean? And also there are some very vastly different ways we exist and we want to be seen and we want to like you know what I mean like I it's so baffling to me and sometimes I just have to accept that I don't understand. I think we try too hard to understand one another and I don't think that that's the goal. um or what we're trying to understand is not what we're understanding, if that makes sense. It's not about like understanding why I'm gay, but understanding or queer or whatever, but understanding how that impacts my life and my livelihood and all that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know, because that's the thing that just baffles me. It's like, I can't quite figure it out because if we want to, like, I believe that we're all one, like we're all connected. And so if there's something that's amiss, like if there's harm happening, that's something that like we all are collectively like causing to some degree, right? And so it's like, what can we all do to get to a place where, we went from like serial killers to like mass shooters to like an AIDS epidemic where, you know what I mean? Like there's all these sorts of, I think, side effects or manifestations that happen from, I think, if you will, a sickness in the health of us as a people. And it's like, so how do we get to a place where we are all more well? And it's not at the price of another group of people or another part of of us?
I think well, I mean, it's like I don't want to be arrogant and think I can answer that question because it was pretty heavy. For me, where I'm at, I think about my relationship to my sponsees and people that I love, and this idea of being powerless. I can only do what I can do, and I have to love and trust that, like, other folks have their higher powers, and they have.
Mhm.
But I was also thinking about while you were talking. Okay, so do you remember doing all of Prop 8 and same-sex marriage,
Mhm.
all of that? So initially going into that whole thing, I was kind of indifferent. Because I was like, I never want to get married, and so why do people want to get married and whatever this and whatever.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until like I started to hear people so passionately argue against why people who want to have that right should have that right. But I was like, well, what happens if I am from Kentucky? We use Kentucky since we've been using Kentucky, from this town, and this is my life, and I'm 40 plus years old, and this is what I've believed all along,
Mhm.
and everybody around me believes it. And then all of a sudden, I've got folks who don't necessarily look like me coming from someone who's saying that what I believe is not right. And I think that one of the challenges that we have is validating someone else's right to believe what they believe,
Mhm.
even if it's not right.
Yeah.
Because when I validate that you have that right, doesn't mean I believe it or I'm okay with it. Because if I come at you, like I saw a lot of folks, and especially the younger generation, demanding certain things from that people believe and treat or whatever. Why would I accept this? Why would I want to hear it when you're yelling at me and telling me that I'm wrong or I have to do something different?
Right.
We can be passionate about what we're passionate about, but we also have to find a way to kind of humanize each person. Like I think eventually, and education is the key. I think eventually those people who are in the dark about certain things will come around, or maybe they won't. But I think all I can do is really kind of make sure that I am solid,
Right.
make sure that we are solid, that the people around me are solid. Like the people that I keep in my inner circle. That's another conversation we can have. Like, and I'll shut up and pass it on to someone. I cannot be around or support folks that don't think the same way that I not necessarily think the same way that I do, but have those. I'm gonna shut up because it's like it can go deeper. It can go
I'm
deep.
following
Yeah,
you.
but you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Yeah,
I am. I'm following you. And for folks, if you're in Kentucky and you're listening to us, no tea, no shade.
we love you.
We love you. We know we know our folks are out there too. I've talked about this before. There are a couple conservative pundits, comedians that I follow, and I like to listen to see. I don't ever want to like exist in a vacuum, and so I listen to some of their arguments. And one of the things that I was really struck by was one argument that I hear is that they'll say things like, "Well, the libs they talk about diversity unless you're a white man, a straight white man," or they'll say, they talk about acceptance. Accepting diverse ideas unless you're pro-life, right? And so there's something to me, what kind of baffles me is that I can listen to a sound argument. And there are many sound arguments. There was this, for example, that Mike Pence many years ago, before he was the vice president, he was addressing Congress and he was talking about, evolution versus creationism. And if you listen to his argument, it is so sound. And I remember sitting back and I'm like, I may not agree with this man, but if I'm just listening to the logic of his argument, he makes a lot of sense. And what troubles me is that there are sound arguments, and there are sometimes, I think, the intentions that are hidden intentions, right?
Oh yeah.
And that's what messes me up. So yesterday, for example, I was listening to CNN, and it was a wonderful conversation. They were talking about gun control. There was a conservative guy on there. There was a liberal guy on there, and then there was a stakeholder. So in this case, it was a mother of of a child who died in Sandy Hook. And the liberal guy spoke, or rather, I think in this case, he was like a moderate Democrat. And then we had the Republican. And then when she spoke, she said, I'm angry at this conversation. And what she said, in my opinion, was very bipartisan, because she was saying, because the conservative guy was saying, well, we need to slow down and we need to investigate to see what really happened here. And the other guy is like, well, we have these laws and things that have worked in the past. And she said, matter of factly, she's like, no, something needs to happen right now, because today, last time it was my family, tomorrow it's somebody else's family. And I think that's something that kind of speaks across the board. So I guess where I'm trying to land with this is that for me, it is very complicated, because I don't always know what to trust, because a sound argument, it can be hidden, right? And emotions are fickle. And often when people are making decisions about like what's right and wrong, it's a combination of all of those things, right? And who gets to be the arbiter of what is true, and who gets to be the arbiter of what we should all be thinking and feeling.
And it's even more of a challenge with social media now.
Oh, I hate social. You guys know how I feel about
no. And social media, like, it has its benefits, but yeah, the fact that you've got and people with agendas doing what they do, and then folks who kind of unfortunately follow them blindly or trust what they have to say.
Well, and we all have agendas.
Yeah.
And we all have different perceptions of what that is. And some of us are a little bit more connected, or like, we have a planned agenda, so to speak, whereas some of us just kind of fumble our way through, but we're still have an agenda, even if we're not conscious of it.
Yeah.
Regardless, like, because of our own biases, our own perspectives, our own needs, our own perceptions of needs, that really kind of paint and color all of that, and I think we do have to find a way. Like, for me, it's just like, when I hear people talk the way they talk about me as a drag queen or a trans person, I am just like, it's hard to be on the other end of that and have compassion for, like, this person seems genuinely hurt and freaked out. Like, I could understand if you really truly believe that I was trying to hurt your kids. Like, I get that. Like I get where that comes from, but it's not true either. And so it's like, it's hard to, I guess, it's hard to like work with that, I guess, too. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm of the opinion that, and I've said this before, I don't think that people who are racist are actually racist. I don't think people that are homophobic are actually homophobic, right? I think what has happened along the way, and I'll even throw heterophobic in there, and all misogynism. Like, I don't think that people actually want to have those ideas or live that kind of life. I think somewhere along the line, someone was taught to fear, or someone was taught to adapt, to be in a certain way. And I think part of that is like, I think humans are we have a very deep need to be in community, to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved. And we're willing to move in whatever direction that comes in. And so if your loyalty to your father's father is like some form of bigotry or homophobia, that's what it becomes a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right. And what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, it's like, my sponsor and I, we read How to Be Anti-Racist with Ibrahim Kendi. And like, I understand your point about people not being inherently like racist or hetero, like those things. But I think that their actions are, and if you support those systems that's dangerous too.
Well,
like,
and
it doesn't matter if you're fully or not. If you support the things that racist, the anti-Black, anti-Semitic, what those things, that's where like we've got to like Bell Hooks says, decolonize our minds.
Yeah. Were you going to say something about it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the big thing is too, it's like, I think sometimes the words that can be used seem like hard and judgmental. And in some ways, it is a judgment. However, it's something like, we all fail at this. We all, no matter how much we pray and no matter how much we try to do the right thing, we still have these perceptions of that make the other of different value than myself. Like, either I see them a certain way because of just the environments that I grew up in, or my, like there's like those sorts of things just kind of naturally happen. And I think we just have to find ways to kind of be able to understand that it's like a judgment, but it's not a judgment. You know what I mean? Like it's like not good. It's not a good thing for us, but it's not something that we're maybe going into trying to be assholes and trying to cause harm. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. We have 10 minutes. We haven't put out a shout out for folks. If you're listening in, please comment.
They
Let us.
left.
They left. They're like,
They
"Oh,"
left. They're like, we're
This is a vanity
they're like, this
project.
conversation is not as fun as the other
yeah,
one.
they're like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not having a KiKi.
This is not KiKi. This just became like
This is like a KiKi at a bar. It's like I'm all and another thing.
Yeah, if it was a KiKi, there'd probably be a lot more people here.
Oh, absolutely.
What's a KiKi, Bonnie Violet?
Yeah.
A KiKi is like when a drag queen hooks up with another drag queen. That's a KiKi. But sex is always, sex sells. So even if we look at our episodes, any episodes where we talk about sex, they tend to have higher ranking, say
Exactly.
like on YouTube.
It's
than
true.
others.
It's true. There was one other thing I wanted to say is that uh, there's research that shows, and in my own experience, that when you take groups that kind of typically wouldn't mesh, so to speak, so like I don't know, you're liberals and you're super conservatives, or you're racist, you know what or you're and you put them together and you have them kind of have a joint venture, that 9 times out of 10 what ends up happening is that those thoughts start to subside.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And a big part of that, I think, is, and this feels a little conspiracy theorist to me, but a big part of what I think has happened is that fear for the longest time has been used as a way of mobilizing people.
Absolutely.
And the people that profit from that fear are actually quite removed from the communities that put them in power. Right. So I don't think, for example, when I hear a crazy senator spouting off nonsense, I don't actually think they believe those ideas. A lot of times I think it's self-driven. I think it's egotism. I think it's about their own profit. I don't think they care about their
Oh,
constituents.
it's easy to see now just because of some of the outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a Disneyland on a lot of these shows.
Yeah, it's like how many times are we going to hear about some conservative guy who's like hella homophobic, like getting a blowjob at a gay bathhouse? Like, how many times are we going to have that conversation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the times when there is bigotry or there is any type of self-hatred, hatred, it's because it's been taught. And that fear has been taught as a way of mobilizing, and it's about the self-gain of some entity that kind of exists outside of the communities that it purports to support.
Yeah, well, it's like, how do we get past that?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, like you said, it's like it's nothing new like that, and that's the frustration. I think it's just like, how do we get past this? How do we get to where we're not just finding ourselves back in the same situation? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we're now going to try to pass laws around gender, like what you're wearing. You know what I mean? Like, that's like old stuff that we been there, done that, and now we're kind of back at it again as a people. And I think that's, to me, it's like, how do we truly like make the world a better place?
Right.
I think that the three of us, Brandon, and those of us who are working on ourselves through our recovery, we're doing the work. We're doing the work, as we might put it, because I think that it has to start with the individual. It has to start with me. I have to decide that I'm ready to make a change. I can't, as much as I want to have everybody think and believe and feel the way that I do, if I separate from the matrix, maybe, just maybe, somebody who I'm able to connect with is going to do the same.
Right. Well, but I'm not like, and I'm sure this is for you too, I'm not content with like what I know is the be all end all, and it's all I need to know. And like, it's like, I want to know more. I want to know different, and so the only way that I'm going to do that is with other people, and through conversations and through their experiences. So I don't, and I think that most of us are probably like, I don't know, are like that to some degree.
You know what? They're probably more the problem, like as frustrated as we can get, there are probably more people who are having this conversation privately together that and if there was just a way to get together and maybe again we're not speaking, our words are not enough the same, so we don't think we're saying the same things. I know you've heard conversations where people are maybe debating and they're saying the same things, but they don't hear that they're saying the same things, and it's like, if you would just stop and listen to yourself, you'd understand that you're on the same side. Maybe you're coming at it from a different angle, but you want the same things.
Yeah. What I
ahead.
wanted to say is, I like that you brought up recovery and sobriety. I think that's one of the things I love about recovery is that there is a going inward and there is an identifying of defects. And one of the most common is fear, right? And what I think happens, at least what has happened in my own experience, is that as I deepen my relationship with God and as I get clearer or more courageous around my fears, I have a lot, I feel much more empathetic and I feel much more embracing of the people around me. And I often, and I've said this before on air about how I feel like God has had a horrible publicist. Like when I have this experience with God or my connection with God, I often think to myself, I want the whole world to have this feeling. And if the whole world had this feeling, we probably would not fight as often as we did.
God's like my former employer. It's like, didn't want to go online, like wanted everything to be word of mouth. And no, it's like everything word of mouth. Somebody else would say the nice thing, but yeah.
Bunny Bella, do you have a final thought before we start wrapping up?
Well, there were a couple of things that were kind of coming to mind. One is just that, like, even if these people don't believe what they're saying is real, and it's impacting people in a very real, like real and like severe way that I have never really experienced before. Being on this end of it. But then also I think one of the things that makes, I think one of the reasons why recovery often is a space in which is kind of a neutralizer. When we're outside of the gay meetings, we do end up being in a room, and even within gay rooms there is diversity, right? Because there's more to diversity than just gender and sexuality. However, in other settings we're able to, I think, be in community and connect with and let go of all that bullshit, because there are kind of these social norms or these social agreements that we have within a space that allow us to move forward in a way that is less harmful. Like we talked about early on, like creating brave space, a space in which we can bring our full selves into, and we might get hurt doing it, but we're going to do it. We're going to probably be a little bit better at it than if we weren't in this setting and within this sort of container. But and it's easier to do in a smaller group of people. But how do you do that?
Right. My last thought before were you going to say something?
No, I mean, I was going to tell you how you can get in touch with me.
Yeah, we're cutting it really close. My last thought here is that when I was a kid, there was a moment where I felt I never understood why there was so I didn't understand racism as a really young kid. I didn't get it. And of course, I've had experiences since then where I was like, oh, this is the origin of a lot of these hateful divides. And I'm at a place now where I think at my core, I really do think, honest to God think that broad acceptance across the board between all perceived, all divides, that is very much possible. And to kind of repeat what's already been said is that, and I do think that change happens on a micro level, right? Like that same hate that say I might or dislike I might have in a room of AA for someone in the room for the rooms is not very different from say the hate that someone has for say an entire group, right? Maybe on a smaller scale. And so I do think it starts on a micro level.
Yes, and
what can you hit me with?
just in the sense of if just let's say that you're sick or you're unwell and you have a sore on your arm, we can't just treat your sore. There's there's other parts of yourself that need to be a part of that process in order to have a good result in tending to that sore, right? So I think it is more than just that.
This sounds like a to be continued conversation.
Yeah,
To be
of
continued,
course.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, so we right up to the wire.
Yes,
Yeah.
to the wire. You can always get in touch with me at LouisLou86 on the gram.
And you can find me, Bonnie Violet, at A Queer Chaplain on all of the things, including a .org.
A.org. And you can find me at @lucasccc on Instagram. Folks have been hitting me up on there after some of the shows. Thank you so much for your kind words and for your thought-provoking conversation. For sure, hit me up on @lucas@ccc on Instagram, or you can find all of us on our Instagram account at the CCC
Podcast.
Podcast, right on.
It didn't say podcast. It said at the CCC.
I know it didn't, but that's what it is. It's at the CCC Podcast.
Oh, Brandon, is that a
But
typo?
you'll get there. Either way, you'll get there.
Yes, exactly.
What were we gonna say, Louis?
Nothing.
I
was waiting for the screen to pop up. Yeah. So the same one. Find all of us on
Petty.
Instagram at CCC Podcast. Yes, exactly.
Or you can email us if you're feeling extra chatty at podcast@castrocountryclub.org. Actually, my chatty line goes to this one.
Yeah.
Or if you're feeling chatty, you can leave us a message at our speakpipe at www.speakpipe.com/@the-CCC.
Absolutely. And the Castro Country Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help people change their lives by supporting personal growth.
Our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support. You can find more information at castrocountryclub.org.
Yes. Yeah, and tune in every Tuesday at 4 p.m.-ish when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels. And you find all... Go ahead.
That's Bonnie.
I was just saying, find us wherever you listen to podcasts at the CCC. And rate us while you're there.
Yes,
give
please
us 5 stars.
Tell your
Rate
friends
us.
about us. Tell your enemies about us.
Uh-huh.
Your
And we'll see you
exes.
next week.
Tell your enemies
current
about us. It's
people
like,
you
We have a KiKi.
it's like praying for them.
Pray for them.
Okay, see you next week.
We love you. Bye.
Mhm.
Balance, balance, balance.